Welcome to the 5th lesson in our screenwriting course, brought to you by TAIM Africa. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most exciting and crucial aspects of screenwriting: character development and dialogue. Great characters and authentic dialogue are the heart and soul of any script. They bring your story to life and make your audience care about the journey. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand how to create memorable, multidimensional characters and write dialogue that feels natural and purposeful. These skills are essential if you want your script to stand out and leave a lasting impression on your viewers. What makes a great character? A great character isn't just someone who exists to move the plot along. They need to be complex, relatable, and most importantly, human. Whether you're writing a hero or a villain, your character needs a level of depth that resonates with the audience. Here are some key elements that contribute to well-developed characters. Motivation. Every character should have a clear goal or motivation driving their actions. What do they want? Why do they want it? This doesn't have to be something grand. It could be as simple as finding love, solving a mystery, or surviving a disaster. What matters is that the audience can understand and empathize with the character's desires. For example, in Breaking Bad, Walter White's primary motivation is to provide for his family after he's diagnosed with cancer. This drives the entire series and makes his character compelling. Flaws. No character is perfect. In fact, flaws are what make characters interesting and relatable. Your audience wants to see characters who make mistakes, face personal challenges, and grow as a result. For example, in Iron Man, Tony Stark is an arrogant, reckless billionaire, and his personal flaws create conflict throughout the story. His character arc revolves around learning humility and responsibility. Backstory. Every character should have a backstory that informs who they are and why they behave in certain ways. Their past experiences, traumas, and successes shape their personality and decisions. For example, in The Joker, 2019, Arthur Fleck's backstory as a struggling, mistreated individual builds empathy for his descent into madness, even though his actions are morally wrong. Conflict. Great characters face both internal and external conflict. External conflicts are the challenges posed by the outside world, villains, obstacles, etc. Internal conflicts are the psychological or emotional struggles they deal with. For example, in Black Panther, T'Challa faces external conflict with Killmonger but also an internal struggle about how to best lead Wakanda and whether to open his country to the rest of the world. And lastly, transformation or character arc. Most memorable characters go through a transformation or character arc throughout the story. This arc usually involves the character changing in some significant way by the end of the film. For example, in The Lion King, Simba begins as a carefree young lion, but through the challenges he faces, he transforms into a responsible king who takes his rightful place. How to create multidimensional characters. Creating well-rounded characters involves more than just giving them a motivation or a backstory. Think of your characters as real people with complex emotions and personalities. Here's how to ensure your characters feel fully realized. Write detailed character profiles. Create a detailed profile for each major character. Include information like their age, appearance, background, personality traits, hobbies, fears, and dreams. The more you know about your character, the easier it is to write authentic scenes. Give the characters unique voices. Each character should have their own voice. This means they should speak in a way that reflects their personality and background. For example, an educated professor will speak differently than a street-smart teenager. Tip: practice writing dialogue for each character without identifying who's speaking, and see if you can tell them apart based on their dialogue alone. And lastly, make the characters active, not passive. Your protagonist should drive the action rather than passively reacting to events. Active characters make decisions, take risks, and influence the plot. Passive characters let the world happen to them. For example, in Indiana Jones, Indy constantly takes action, whether it's chasing down artifacts or outsmarting villains. He's always proactive, which makes him an engaging character. Now that we've discussed character development, Let's move on to dialogue. Dialogue is an essential tool for revealing character and advancing the plot, but it's also tricky to master. Bad dialogue can ruin an otherwise good script, so it's important to get it right. Here are some essential tips for writing strong dialogue. Keep it natural. Good dialogue sounds like how real people speak, but it's also more concise and purposeful. In real life, people tend to ramble and include lots of filler words, but in screenwriting, every line should serve a purpose. Tip: read your dialogue out loud to see if it sounds natural. If it feels awkward to say, it will sound awkward on screen. Show, don't tell. Dialogue should reveal things about your characters without over-explaining. Instead of having a character say, "I'm angry," show their anger through their tone, actions, or the tension in their words. For example, in The Godfather, Michael Corleone's calm and measured way of speaking shows his control and ruthlessness without him ever having to say it outright. Use subtext. Subtext is what characters are saying beneath the surface of their words. Often, what a character says is not exactly what they mean. Using subtext adds depth and tension to your dialogue. For example, in Casablanca, when Rick says, "Here's looking at you, kid," the line holds deep emotional weight because of the history between the characters, even though the words themselves seem simple. Avoid exposition dumps. Exposition is necessary to explain certain things about the plot, but don't use dialogue to deliver long-winded explanations. Instead, weave exposition naturally into the conversation, or show it through visuals. Tip: if your characters are explaining the plot in dialogue, consider whether there's a more interesting way to convey that information. And lastly, use silence. Sometimes, what a character doesn't say is more powerful than what they do say. Silence, pauses, and nonverbal communication can add layers of meaning and tension to a scene. For example, in No Country for Old Men, the antagonist Anton Chigurh often lets silence fill the space during tense confrontations, making him even more terrifying. Today, we've covered the essentials of character development and dialogue, two of the most critical elements of screenwriting. Remember, your characters are the heart of your story, and their dialogue is how they communicate their desires, flaws, and emotions to the audience. Keep practicing, and keep refining your characters until they feel like real, multidimensional people. In the final video, we will be exploring rewriting and editing, where we'll talk about polishing your script, revising scenes, and getting it ready for production. Stay focused, and I'll see you in the next lesson.